Welcome to Cartoons and Stories 01, where exciting adventures and fun cartoons come to life. Get ready for a world of imagination.
Far, far away, in a land of green hills and fluffy sheep, lived a young boy named David. David wasn't a big, strong soldier. He was a shepherd boy, and he loved to play beautiful music on his harp. Every day, he would take his father's sheep to find the greenest grass to eat and the coolest water to drink. But being a shepherd wasn't always easy. Sometimes, scary animals would come looking for a little lamb to snack on. But David was brave. He would protect his sheep with all his might, keeping them safe from harm. One day, a big, fuzzy bear came lumbering out of the woods, its eyes on the littlest lamb. David didn't run away. He stood tall and, with God's help, he chased the big bear away. Now, not too far away, a big army was camped in a valley. This was the army of Israel. On the other side of the valley was another army, the Philistines. They were enemies of the Israelites. The king of Israel, King Saul, was very worried. The Philistines had a secret weapon, and that secret weapon was not a secret for long. It was a giant. His name was Goliath, and he was taller than a house and stronger than 10 men. He wore heavy armor that clanked and clanged with every step, and he carried a spear as thick as a tree branch. When the Israelite soldiers saw Goliath, their knees would knock together like coconuts. They were so scared. Every morning and every evening, Goliath would stomp out and shout in a booming voice that echoed through the valley. "Send me a man to fight," he would roar. "If he wins, we will be your servants. But if I win, you will be ours." But no one in the Israelite army was brave enough to fight the giant. They would hide behind rocks and whisper, "Did you see the size of him?" Back in Bethlehem, David's father, Jesse, was thinking about his older sons. David had 3 big brothers who were soldiers in King Saul's army. Jesse packed up some bread and cheese for his sons. "David," he said, "take this food to your brothers." So, David left his sheep with another shepherd and set off on the long walk to the army camp. When David got to the valley, he could hear a loud, scary shouting, and then he saw him, Goliath. The giant was bigger and scarier than any lion or bear David had ever seen. David saw the brave soldiers of Israel running away from the giant. This made David feel sad. "Why is everyone running away?" David asked the soldiers. "Who is this big bully?" A soldier told David, "That's Goliath. He wants to fight one of us, but we're all too afraid." David's oldest brother, Eliab, saw him and was not happy. "What are you doing here, little brother?" he grumbled. "You should be at home with the sheep." But David wasn't listening. He knew something had to be done. He couldn't let this giant make fun of his people and his God. "What will the king give to the man who beats this giant?" David asked. "The king will give him lots of riches," they said, "and he can marry the king's daughter." David's heart was filled with courage. He said, "I will go and fight this Philistine." The soldiers looked at David, a small shepherd boy, and they laughed. "You can't fight him," they said. But David was serious. So the soldiers took him to see King Saul. King Saul looked at David. "You are just a boy," he said kindly. "Goliath has been a warrior since he was young. But I am strong," David said. "I have fought a lion and a bear to protect my father's sheep. God was with me then, and he will be with me now." King Saul was surprised by David's bravery and his faith. "All right," said the king. You may go, and you can wear my armor to protect you." The king's servants put heavy armor on David. It was so big and clunky. The helmet wobbled on his head, and the sword was so heavy he could barely lift it. "I can't wear this," David said. "I'm not used to it." He took it all off. Instead, David walked down to a little stream that trickled through the valley. He bent down and carefully chose 5 smooth, round stones from the water. He put the 5 smooth stones into his little shepherd's bag. In his hand, he held his trusty slingshot. It was the only weapon he needed. With his staff in one hand and his sling in the other, David walked out into the valley to face the giant. Goliath saw the small boy coming towards him, and he laughed a big, booming laugh. "Am I a dog," the giant bellowed, "that you come at me with sticks?" But David wasn't scared. He shouted back, "You come to me with a sword and a spear, but I come to you in the name of the Lord God of Israel. Today," David said, "the Lord will deliver you into my hand." This made Goliath very angry. He started to stomp towards David, ready to fight, but David didn't wait. He started running towards the giant. As he ran, he reached into his shepherd's bag. He pulled out one of the smooth, round stones. He placed the stone carefully into the pocket of his sling. He began to swing the sling around and around his head, faster and faster. With a mighty whir, David let go of one end of the sling, and the little stone went flying through the air. It flew straight and true, and it hit the giant Goliath right in the middle of his forehead. The giant stopped in his tracks. He wobbled and he swayed. And then, with a tremendous thud, the mighty Goliath fell face down on the ground. The whole Philistine army gasped. They couldn't believe their eyes. The Israelite army stared in amazement. The little shepherd boy had done it. David stood over the giant, proving that with God, anything is possible. Seeing their champion defeated, the Philistine soldiers turned and ran away as fast as they could. A huge cheer went up from the Israelite soldiers. They had won. King Saul's army chased after the Philistines, winning a great victory that day. David was brought back to King Saul's tent. The king was so proud of David. "You are a true hero," he said. King Saul's son, Jonathan, saw David's courage, and he loved him like a brother. All the people of Israel celebrated David's victory. They sang and danced in the streets. They sang a new song. "Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. But David remained a humble shepherd boy at heart. He knew it was God who had given him the victory. From that day on, David's life was never the same. He went to live in the king's palace and served King Saul. When the king was feeling sad or troubled, David would play his harp, and the beautiful music would make him feel better. David's story teaches us that it doesn't matter how big or small you are. What matters is having faith in God and the courage to do what is right. We all have giants in our lives, things that seem too big or too scary to face. But if we are brave like David and trust in God, we can overcome them. And the little shepherd boy, David, would one day grow up to be the greatest king Israel had ever known. And that is the story of David and Goliath, a story of courage, faith, and a little boy who did a very big thing. The end.